Welcome to Make It Happen. Today we're talking about the mind of a business owner and how to handle financing, innovation, and keeping on the path even when you make mistakes. Today's special guest, Sharick Peck, is an inventor of his own and has built multiple businesses and is a great resource for anyone who's on the path. Sometimes I feel like business ownership can feel a little lonely, so step on into our conversation today and learn a few things and get some support for where you are in your business. Also, stay tuned for the Pick My Brain segment because we're talking about where and when it's appropriate to involve your faith in your messages. Welcome to Make It Happen. Welcome to Make It Happen. We have a special guest, Sharick Peck, with me, and he is a physical therapist and inventor. I also found out he has a master's degree in counseling to add into his many traits, but also I can tell he's a lover of life and a learner. And so we're here today because we became connected because of my daughter's headaches, and you created a tool that helps send the right messages to the brain that leads to healing. And so I would love for you to share a little bit more about how you got here. Why did you always know you were going to become an inventor? How did your journey from physical therapist to inventor take place? What did that look like for you?
Oh my goodness. So I'd been a physical therapist about 15, 16 years, and I felt like I didn't have solutions to really, really help people. In fact, sometimes it felt like they either got better on their own or it was just some wonderful blessing, but it wasn't necessarily as much of what I did. And so, as a professional, you feel somewhat, am I really helping people? Well, I encouraged and I tried to provide some great insights and some helps and some stories to motivate them. But I didn't have any really, really good abilities to help people, I felt. And I was seeing all kinds of people with chronic pain, migraine headaches and jaw pain. And my own wife, for years, could hardly turn her neck. Now, that might be another conversation about many little children and the stresses of life.
Sure.
But for years, she could hardly turn her neck, and it caused her difficulties trying to take care of children and our practices. And, well, I asked for help, and I asked for heavenly help. And one night I got this incredibly cool message, and I woke up to this concept that vibration was something really important to help people heal. And I didn't understand the message, but the first thought that came to my mind was, well, I have a vibrating toothbrush. Maybe that'll do it. and I literally started. After I woke my wife up, I started working towards helping people by using just little vibrational devices, and I'd put it on different points on their body and I'd see how they'd respond. And slowly I started building an understanding of how to be able to create healing in the nervous system. But the problem was I couldn't find the tools that would do exactly what I felt needed to happen. And that's where I became an inventor. I had no desire to be an inventor, and I don't understand a lot of the things in business that are part of inventing and bringing a product to market. So I can be a great example of what not to do, maybe, because I've made a lot of mistakes. But I started trying to put together something that would really help people. And I went through engineer after engineer to try and help them understand what I needed, because I knew what I needed in my heart and in my head. I just couldn't explain it really well in the terms that they understood.
Right.
So I went about, eventually I found an engineer that could help me create a part. And then I found another engineer that could help me create a vibrational device that ran in this very careful, very narrow window. Fast forward a little bit, and now we've got 4 patents, and we've got a presence. We've sent these devices to people in almost 70 countries, and it's been a fascinating story on that regard.
Sure.
But I probably didn't follow all the right rules to get there, but we've had a miraculous experience.
Well, isn't the adage like necessity is the mother of invention? And so you had this need that needed to be filled. And so you were careful and you were looking for the information, and you sought all of your resources and you reached out to a higher power. I always say God is my CEO, right? So, and then together with all of that and the trial and error and finding other people with their talents and skills, I mean, then you can bring it together. I think one of the trickiest things that I witness in business is someone who has an idea, but then they can't bring it to fruition or whatever. They can't bring it to market. They don't have the skills or the ability. And all of that is something that can be learned, but that does come with some tricky pieces. And so how do you navigate that now? Do you still have your physical therapy practices? Are you all in on the tuner business? And where do you focus your business efforts now?
Well, fortunate for me, I've been able to self-fund this as we went, because I have some really great companies that I work with. I work with companies in the region like Rocky Mountain Power, and I've worked with them for years to help them do a better job with their workers and to be able to prevent injuries. And they have helped us to be able to fund these as we've gone along. I can't imagine if I'd have had to borrow the money to do everything.
Sure.
Because the few times that I did borrow or borrowed on my home multiple times, it felt like an overwhelming weight above us. But I had a passion. I saw, first of all, my wife completely healed of her neck issues, and I knew how much of an effect those things that I was learning could have on others. So I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I couldn't stop obsessing with needing to create a better and a better way to be able to help people. And I think that it's that passion that probably drives more than anything of you just can't quit. Okay, you find a roadblock, you've got to find a way around it. Well, maybe we need to involve another engineer, or we need to find another way to be able to keep moving forward. And that's just what we've done. We've found out how to go around all kinds of roadblocks.
Well, and I think that's a really key business takeaway, right? Because people assume, and maybe you've even seen the meme, that like you assume success is from here to here, but really success is like this, and it comes up and down and goes over. And I will make sure that you see the real meme so that you don't have to think about my arm waving in your future. But a lot of it is just kind of figuring it out as you go. But what I hear from you is a couple of key business traits, and you can correct me if you feel like this is not quite right. Number one is make decisions on financing and decide what's right for you. For some people, getting it funded may be the right thing, but if you can bootstrap and self-fund, there are definite benefits to that. The other thing that I hear that I think is good, and I'd like for you to speak to this for a minute, is innovation. You had the thought about something to do, but even in just the course of time that you and I have started talking, you've also come out with a new version, and you're never quite satisfied that this is done, which I think is really an important business skill that you might have an idea to bring to market. Maybe it's even just a service to bring to market. But if you're always innovating, then you always stay relevant and you can become better and better. So what drives your innovation, and how do you see that as a piece of your business long term?
I think we did that all wrong. I mean, I've been told since doing this that, we should have looked out at the world and said, well, what would the world like? And let's go invent that. I didn't do that. I knew exactly what I needed to create. And we created a great version of it, and an even better version, and an even better version. But I've been left with the difficulty of educating the world about what our tool does and how it does it. And that's a very difficult position to be in for an inventor. But the neat thing about that is if you create something that can really help people, there will be other groups out there that will recognize the beauty of what you've created. And we have doctors all over the world that when they saw it, it's like they were just waiting for our device. And they recognized immediately what it could do and how it could do it. And I almost didn't have to educate them. So sometimes finding the right group that is going to be passionate about what you've created is probably one of the most important things to do to help your product life expand.
I like what you said. I think sometimes we make things because we think other people need them or want them or something. But when you make something from your passion, then it's a lot easier to educate people. And to your point, when you create something new, it's not just, hey, buy this. It's, hey, here's a need that needs to be filled and this will work for you. And so it's a two-step marketing process that can be kind of tricky. But one of the things that I hope our audience is hearing that is a really hot button for me is target market. Like understanding who your target market is. And you kind of stumbled on it the hard way because you're like, oh, here, it's great. Now what do I do? But then you also used your skills, right? You're like, I know this will help doctors in their practices. And I will use my contacts and connections to reach out to those people first. And so as a result of that, people use them in a practice and they're like, I want this at home. And then they buy it and they want it at home. And so you've figured out the funnel, even if by accident, you figured out who your target market is. And now you can expand it because you know how to reach out to them. So have you found some tricks to that for you in your business that have been helpful as you grow?
Yeah, we've been researching everything we could figure out about how to get the messaging out there. And we started looking at affiliate marketing plans. Mm-hmm. But we ran into a big problem. If you try and get affiliates to go out and promote for you, but they don't really understand what your product is, right. All of a sudden, everybody that gets one because of an affiliate mention, wants to send it back to you because they don't know what to do with it. So we stumbled upon this wonderful concept, and that is to ask those doctors that are so good at helping people with brain injuries and other things using our tool to be brand ambassadors. And they're not really familiar with affiliate marketing, so they're not marketers, but they love sharing their passion. Mm-hmm. And so they're sharing our story on Instagram and Facebook and other social media means, and they're educating the world for us, and we're just sharing our product with them. It's a wonderful way because we're not writing a check to our marketing department every month, but we're helping share with our people that become brand ambassadors for us.
I think that is also wise and a great thing to just think through and consider. And about 4 weeks ago, I did an episode on the marketing mistakes that you make, but how every marketing mistake you make is a learning experience, and it really is okay. And on paper, it sounds great to go after affiliates, and that's worth doing. But then you could kind of see, okay, I see what worked from this, and I see what didn't work from this. And so you figured out how to make it work for you by changing. They're still kind of affiliates. They're just people who understand and are doing the educating part. And so I think this is a great message and takeaway that sometimes you can stumble into marketing that doesn't work, but it might lead you to the direction that you are, which only feeds the point. It's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to have risks, because through that process, you'll say, oh, wait, I wish I would have done it differently, or I wish I wouldn't have jumped on that and I could have done this better. And you just learn along the way. You joked before we started, oh, I've made a lot of mistakes. But I think every business owner would say that to a certain extent. But that's how you grow, and you figure it out and you move forward. Is there anything else you'd like to leave with this audience before we wrap up? A business takeaway advice, or how about this? What advice would you give somebody who has an idea?
I would say that if you are absolutely passionate about it, and if you can't hardly sleep at night because of your excitement, because you know that the world needs what you've got to create, you've got to go about the steps and try and figure out what will it do, or what will you need to do to be able to bring that to market. And I say that because if I had not done what I've now been able to do with God's help over the last 10 years, if I had not worked to the point of being able to create something that works much better than any product that I could find on the market, I think that I would be empty, and I would not be fulfilling my purpose to be able to help humanity, and I would feel badly if your daughter didn't have the help that we've been able to provide. I mean, headaches are so hard to be able to to figure out as a parent, what do? I don't feel it, but I can see your suffering. And I think that if you've got a passion to do something to help the world, you find out, you figure out, you take these tools, you listen to other people, and you figure out a way to be able to help the world with what you've created.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. In the show notes, we're going to include the details for the Tuner Pro so that you can find one online. I'm also going to send you the details to their extensive YouTube channel that has a lot of resources, and you can see the product in action, as well as their social media channel so that you can follow along and try to figure out if it's the right thing for you. But if nothing else, I hope you take some of the takeaways that we've had today, because I know many of you who are watching or listening are business owners yourself. You're inventors and creators and people who are working to move forward to build businesses. So these tips and strategies that we've talked about today can be helpful for you, whether you're just getting started or you have an established business. Innovation never dies. Even if you are 20 years in, still figuring out how to grow and create the best products or service offerings are some of the best things that you can do to invest in your business. So again, thank you so much for being on Make It Happen. We're so glad that you're here and we're cheering you on. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Welcome to Pick My Brain, one of my favorite segments. Today's question is from Karen Snavely. If you have a question you want to send it to Pick My Brain, it can be anything on business or mindset or motivation or anything in between. You can send it to Michelle@speakmichelle.com. You can also find me on social media and send me a direct message that way, because I've gotten a few that way. So Karen's question is, since my faith is a big part of who I am, will posting about my faith, even not too aggressively, hurt my business? And we've had a question similar to this before, but I felt like even with today's episode, this was a good question to ask. Later on in the show, you're going to hear our guest talk a little bit about an experience that helped him in his innovation process, connecting with his higher power. And I actually appreciated the boldness that he shared and his willingness to share his experiences in a way that was not super threatening or even overly too much, but was just real and true to who he was and the experiences that he had. And I think that you can do the same, especially if that's part of your brand. Now, Karen, I know that you are building your own business as part of pottery and that you have other things that you do as well. And so if you feel like that's a natural connection, I would absolutely include it at the level that you feel comfortable. I share a little bit about my thoughts and beliefs from time to time. I am not religious specifically about my religion when it comes to my business side. I have a completely separate podcast, a completely separate blog that talks about some of my spiritual and religious musings, because I wanted a place to be able to share those things. And I also knew that my business account could handle me talking about it from time to time without it being at the front and center. So you can figure out how you weave that in. If you want to be a Christian pet lover, you absolutely can. If you want to talk more about gods and dogs, you could absolutely do that too. Whatever it matches for you at the level that you feel comfortable, I think it's appropriate to bring in. It is important to say that for some people, that will be a reason to not engage with you, but for the right people, they will actually appreciate it even the more. They will feel a greater sense of connection to you if they share that common belief. And many people in this day and age who aren't quite sure what they feel or know or understand are sometimes grateful for the mention so that they can consider where it fits in their own lives as well. You decide at the level that you want to share it. It could be a sprinkle and it could be at the forefront, but it would be appropriate if you were feeling called to it. I would probably honor that as well. Thank you so much for sending that in, Karen, and I appreciate your thoughts. It is tricky and it's been delicate for me to address in my own personal views as well over the last decade, and I'm trying to figure out the balance as well. So thanks for sending that in. If you have a question, you're welcome to send it to Pick My Brain at Michelle@speakmichelle.com. Put Pick My Brain in the subject line, and I would love to answer it on a future episode of the show. I always love to talk to inventors because I always have a million ideas and I never bring them to fruition. I mean, aside from my service-based business, I have products running through my mind all the time. And so I love sitting down and chatting with those passionate people who are taking their ideas and bringing them to real life. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation and found a nugget or two that you can take away in your own business so that you can figure out the areas where you're ready to step it up and make it happen. Thank you for being part of today's show. We will be back next week with an all-new episode, and we hope that you'll follow along with us on your favorite podcast or even on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single episode, because great things are coming your way.